What does it mean to steward a kingdom assignment? Hey there. Welcome to Kingdom on Wall Street. I'm your host, Starkey Robertson. Today, I want to talk about a word that you're going to hear a lot around here: stewardship. And if you've got something to take notes with, grab it. Because if you believe God has placed a business, vision, opportunity, organization, ministry, invention, responsibility, or assignment in your hands, one of the most important questions you can ask is not simply, what am I called to do? The deeper question is, how am I supposed to steward what I've been given? Those are different questions. Calling identifies responsibility. Stewardship determines what you do with it. And I think that's where a lot of us struggle. We spend enormous amounts of time trying to determine what we're called to do. We pray about the idea. We look for confirmation. We think about the vision. We talk about purpose. But once you believe you've received direction, something changes. Now there's responsibility, and responsibility requires stewardship. So what does that actually mean? Stewardship begins with recognizing that ownership and responsibility are not exactly the same thing. If I believe God has entrusted something to me, then I cannot approach it as though the only question that matters is, what do I want from this? I also have to ask, what is required of me because this has been placed in my hands? That changes everything. Let's say you've been given a business idea. You can spend 5 years talking about how powerful the idea is. Or you can begin developing the skills necessary to execute it. That's stewardship. Maybe you have a business already. You can pray for more customers. But you can also examine how you're treating the customers you currently have. That's stewardship. You can ask God for greater financial resources, but you also need to know what's happening with the resources currently moving through your hands. That's stewardship. You can pray for employees, but you should also be developing the leadership ability required to responsibly employ people. That's stewardship. Stewardship is where belief becomes behavior. And there are several areas I think we have to take seriously. The first is time. Everybody gets 24 hours. And I'm not going to tell you that every minute has to be productive. That's not healthy. Rest matters. Relationships matter. Sleep matters. Worship matters. Life matters. But if you continually say something is important while never allocating meaningful time to it, eventually you have to examine that contradiction. Your calendar reveals priorities your mouth may not admit. If the assignment matters, where's the time for it? Not imaginary time, not when things slow down, not eventually. Where is it actually represented in your schedule? Stewardship requires intentionality. Then there are finances. Again, Kingdom on Wall Street isn't afraid to talk about money. Businesses need money. Organizations need resources, ideas require capital, but stewardship asks more than, how much can I make? It asks, what am I doing with what I have? Do I know my numbers? Do I understand my expenses? Am I making commitments I can't afford? Am I confusing revenue with profit? Am I taking unnecessary risks? Am I preparing for future obligations? Am I being honest? Am I handling other people's money responsibly? Financial stewardship is not about worshiping money. It's about refusing to be careless with resources. Then there are relationships. Assignments are carried through relationships more often than we realize. Customers, employees, mentors, partners, vendors, friends, family, advisors, community. The way you treat people matters. If building your business requires you to destroy every relationship around you, something deserves examination. If you're constantly burning bridges, something deserves examination. If people can't trust your word, something deserves examination. You can be talented and still become difficult to work with. You can be visionary and still become a terrible leader. You can build something impressive and mistreat everybody who helped you build it. That's not the kind of stewardship we're talking about here. Then there's reputation. Your name carries information. Over time, people learn whether you follow through, whether you're honest, whether you pay people, whether you keep commitments, whether you admit mistakes, whether you treat people fairly, whether your work is excellent. Reputation isn't about obsessing over everybody's opinion of you. You cannot control that. It's about recognizing that character leaves evidence. Steward your name. Then there's knowledge. Sometimes we're asking God to increase something that we haven't developed the capacity to manage. If you're building in an industry you don't understand, learn. If you're weak with finances, learn. If you don't understand sales, learn. If you're going to employ people, learn how to lead. If regulations affect your industry, understand them. If technology is changing your field, pay attention. Prayer does not eliminate the responsibility to learn. And then there is the assignment itself. This may be one of the hardest things to steward because entrepreneurs often have ideas constantly. One good idea leads to another, then another, then another. Suddenly you have 15 unfinished projects. Everything is exciting, nothing is complete. Stewardship sometimes means saying no to something good because it isn't what you're supposed to be carrying right now. Focus is stewardship. Finishing is stewardship. Consistency is stewardship. And here's something else I think we need to understand. Stewardship does not guarantee the outcome you want. You can do things responsibly and still encounter difficulty. You can make a wise decision and still experience an unexpected result. You can work diligently and still have a slow season. You can build something excellent and still discover that the market isn't ready for it. You can obey and still experience resistance. That's why I don't believe we should measure obedience exclusively by outcomes. There are outcomes we influence, there are outcomes we cannot control. Your responsibility is to handle what has been placed in your hands faithfully. That doesn't mean ignoring results. Results contain information. If something isn't working, examine it, learn, adjust, improve. But don't make the mistake of believing that every disappointing result automatically means you failed God. Sometimes stewardship is continuing. Sometimes stewardship is changing. Sometimes stewardship is waiting. Sometimes stewardship is stopping. Wisdom is learning the difference. And there's another danger. We can become so attached to the assignment that we start taking credit for what God does through it. If something succeeds, remain grounded. If the business grows, remain grounded. If people begin recognizing your work, remain grounded. If opportunities appear that you never imagined, remain grounded. The assignment may be in your hands, but the glory belongs to God. Stewardship should produce gratitude, not self-exaltation. So here's an exercise I want you to do. Write the name of whatever you're building at the top of a piece of paper. Then underneath it, write time, finances, relationships, reputation, knowledge, focus. Now grade yourself honestly in each area. Where are you strong? Where are you careless? Where are you avoiding responsibility? Where have you grown? Where do you need help? Don't use the exercise to condemn yourself. Use it to identify what needs attention, because stewardship becomes practical when responsibility becomes specific. And before you go, I want you to answer 3 questions. Which area of stewardship is currently the most difficult for you? What is one thing you know you need to manage differently in this season? And what have you learned about stewardship that could help somebody else carrying a kingdom assignment? Put your answers down in the comment section. Your experience may help somebody else recognize something they haven't seen yet. The question isn't only what has God placed in my hands? The question is, how am I handling what He placed there? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.